Okay, so you can measure it after the photo has been taken, but not while you are taking the photo.
You just separate it fully. You measure whenever you want. So I can take a meter reading of the light falling on my face, and I can say, you can see it's really dark. It's saying 0.7. So this is too dark. I would have to slow down my shutter speed. Slow down, slow down, slow down. Now I'm at 2.8. So if I look at this camera will go to 2.8. I could take a photograph with this one with this setting. Each lens will have a maximum aperture size. The smaller number is actually the bigger hole opening, and this is the max for a lot of lenses, 2.8. So you can't. This is the brightest the lens can do. But I'm on 1/8 of a second. Do you think this is blurry or not blurry? 1/8 of a second is basically chip chip or something like that. So it's probably going to blur. So the general rule for blurriness when you're holding a camera is that it's 1 over the ISO. So if I'm at ISO 100, it's about 160, or sorry, it's 1 over the focal length, my bad. It's the lens focal length. So this is a 50mm, and I can probably hold this at 1/50th, maybe 1/25th, and then it's probably going to blur. You can do a lot. You can actually lean against something and hold steady. You can put it on a tripod. The general idea is that it's 1 over the focal length. This is an 85. So using this at 1/100 is probably going to blur. I think 1/250th or something. This is like a classic portrait lens. So portraits will be kind of flat. If you use a very wide lens, to fill the frame with someone's face, you have to walk next to them, which is always changing the perspective. If you're right next to someone's face, you're like this far away, most of the photograph will be their nose. And if you actually, there's like an idea that the nicest distance to be away is like this kind of distance on a 35mm camera, like an 85 or 135. This is an old 135. And this distance you're probably going to be like here, and then the nose and the features are like a nicely arranged. There's no one exact way to look at it, right? So the relationship between focal length and exposure. So the two main types of metering. This is when the light's falling on it, and you won't get these in cameras. What these guys do is this kind of metering, which is this one. They're taking a point in it and they're measuring the light that's bouncing back. Right, so reflective is an incident, this is a reflective. This is what all the automatic cameras will have, your phone will have it. It will look at points of the scene and it can often get it wrong. So what it does is it measures, it tells you what settings you need to make whatever you're looking at 17% greater. This is what it's actually doing with standard meter. So if I do it on the white wall, it's actually going to give me a read that says make that white wall gray. So what you tend to do with this is you look for something that is gray, and you're basically saying, what do I need to do to make this gray? So if you make the gray, then this is probably what you want. If you pointed at something black, it's going to give you like it's going to say give it lots of exposure, give it lots of shutter speed. If you pointed at something white, it's going to say this is like an 8 of f/19, and then if you change it to chair, and then it's an 8 of 1.2. The difference between those two is probably like 50 times as big. And what you're doing metering really is getting an average of the whole scene. So this is called a spot meter, and you can be very, very precise with these ones, which you're trying to find something that you think is like where you want the grade to be in the scene, which is a difficult problem. So you can have a problem with landscapes where the sky is too bright. So if the sky is really bright and the ground is in silhouette, you can use like filters, you can use take two photographs and merge them together in Lightroom or Photoshop, or like a lot of the time I just don't mind. I don't mind if I lose detail, or I might just not get a good photograph. Does that make sense? So, go on.
In your experience, do you recommend investing in like a handheld light meter, or have you used an app before?
Apps are good. Apps are good. Okay. Yeah, I would happily use that. I've used them. There's also the Sunny 16 room, where you just wing it. I could use Sunny 16 was actually very handy to do and forward. Let's see, what do we get? We could take a quick break, and then I could do a little bit on the board on depth of field, exposure triangle, and Sunny 16. And use the cameras. I brought them here so you can look around with them. Have a look at the photographs. If you want to take notes of these books, I think books are great. Have a look at more of the prints. There's a whole